Do you know when you really want love, or do you just act out? Do you know when you're really hungry, or do you just eat? Right? All these things point to our very humanistic desire to fill in a certain void or to fill in a certain need, however and whenever we can. Discomfort is something none of us want to go through. How uncomfortable is discomfort? Why would I want to put myself in an uncomfortable situation? In this video, we're going to highlight our very unhealthy attachments to foods and how that highlights our very unhealthy attachments to other aspects of our life, like poor relationships, like not being able to properly heal, not being on our journey, not feeling like we're as purposeful as we can be. So with the food aspect, let's take a look at this and how it really shows up in other parts of our life. So say, for example, you're really excited, you got that job, and now you're ready to go eat a crab boil. Me. But you're ready to eat a crab boil. You're ready to have some chitlins. You're ready to have some collard greens. You're ready to go to Chick-fil-A, wherever it is. So your excitement, right? So that excitement in that moment, you're used to associating good feelings with food. Now, we're not beating ourselves up, but we're just leaning in like, wait a minute, just because I'm excited, just because I got a little dopamine hit, the serotonin is running around in the body, does that mean that I need to go ahead and eat as well? Or do I just have that association that good feelings and food go together? Because let's take another look. When you're sad, when you're feeling anxious, do you reach for food? Are you reaching for sweets? Because that really just shows us that we look for things to fill in certain voids that we are ill-equipped to fill on our own. Right? Let's take it a step further. Do you really want love? Or do you know that you want love? And are you just acting like you don't? And by that, I mean, you're entertaining that same man, okay, that same woman that you know is not showing up for you. They're inconsistent. One day you guys go together real bad, and the next day you don't. Is that what you really want, or is that what you're telling yourself so that way you feel comfortable just maintaining that? Because one thing about calling yourself out, it puts the onus back on you. Now the responsibility is on you. Now that you know that this is self-defeating behavior, now that you know and have identified that this man or woman could not fill the void that you are looking for them to fill, you have to take responsibility, and that's uncomfortable. That hurts. So we kind of like try to take care of that wound on our own by saying, no, he's not that bad. And we're seeing the theme now, right? We're seeing the theme between what's going on when we have a certain emotion, a very strong emotion, and we want to sustain that, right? Because one thing about the human nature too is I feel like our moods are always going up and down, up and down, up and down, especially when we don't have proper coping mechanisms. So for example, you got that job, you got a great news today. So you want to sustain that, you want to maintain that. Oh, great news. We know it's fleeting, right? We know the great news, we're only going to be running on that high for about T-5 minutes. So I want to elongate this. Now I'm going to go get my crab boil, and that's going to make it longer. Now I want to add a drink to it. Let me go out, get some drinks with the girls, and let me add a drink to it. Now that feels great. That's all wonderful stuff. And there's nothing wrong with doing that, celebrating yourself. I'm not saying that. But it becomes problematic when the things that you run to are things that don't necessarily serve you. Because that next day, you out of the $50, $60 you done spent on the crab boil, you have a little hangover because you went out and certain things didn't get done. So that lets me know that there's certain coping mechanisms that we have sometimes that are not helpful for us. So I want you to really think, right? I really want you to think for a moment and ask yourself, what are some healthier things I can do instead of going to that man, going to that woman for comfort, going to them to console me during a time of uncertainty in my life, just because I need something? What is it that you're running from? Why is it so bad for you to just sit with you? Why can't you just sit in a room quiet for an hour without your phone and just sit there with you and your thoughts? What are you scared of? What's uncomfortable, right? This whole video is talking about discomfort and how we like to escape that as human beings, but discomfort is where we grow. And if we really cut ourselves off from growth, then we're just not going to live the life that we're destined to live. And also note this is the best part about the whole thing. Now that man or that woman that you're very attached to, that kind of fills that void of discomfort that you don't want to feel because you don't want to look at yourself, or that food you keep running to kind of maintain your feel-good feelings, or that help you when you're feeling sad or angry or frustrated or happy, whatever it is, we start to realize that all these little things that we run to and all these things that we think we love and think we like, they have no kind of bearings over us. And by that, I mean, start to heal, right? Sit in that discomfort, and then it'll start to arise in you what your real problem is. Maybe there's an uncomfortable truth about yourself you're not trying to recognize right now. It's just a little hurtful to believe and to try to go after right now. And that's okay. Growth happens slowly, but it can happen as we get a little bit more comfortable with ourselves. So as you're doing that, you start to realize like, wow, I'm healing, number one, which is fantastic. And number two, I'm starting to realize like, I don't even think I like that man or I like that woman as much as I thought I did. I don't even think that person has as much control over my life as I thought they did. Or this food, the way that I'm eating, the way that I'm thinking, it extends way beyond food and people. It's everything, right? Because we can use any and everything as something to help us or to fill in a hole temporarily, right? Because if we don't have a natural baseline for happiness, a natural baseline for joy that's intrinsic, you can trust and believe that you may be overly relying or putting too much importance on some of the things outside of you to fill that hole in. And once you start to heal internally, you start to have less and less of a need for those things that you just couldn't live without before. You just can't live without that man. He is just so great. But guess what? Even a little bit of something from somebody feels like a panacea, right? It just fixes everything when you're empty. Think about it. When you're empty, it feels so good. Poison might taste good if I drink it if I'm thirsty, right? So look at it like that. Like in some ways you're yearning, you're parched, you're starving for true fulfillment, not that fleeting fulfillment of the good food, the good crowd list. You always need more and more of that. You always need more and more. And that's how you know it's not sustaining. And the only thing that can sustain your true joy, your true happiness is things that are intrinsic, things that you generate, feelings of feeling purposeful, feelings of feeling worthy, feelings of feeling beautiful, feelings of helping your community, all those things that are good for the spirit. That's how you know. Because you're always going to run out of things that make you feel good. And it's, this is done. That job is now old. And now I'm tired of my coworker. I can't stand looking at her ass. Now you saying things like that. And then now you can't wait to leave the job because now you're going to run to that half-assed man that you got. And it'll be good for that moment. But then when you get home, he's going to piss you off because you guys aren't going to talk again, or whatever the hell goes on. Right? So we have to start to look at those things and be like, wow, these things really don't define you, number one. And number two, they are so powerless. You are the power source. You give these things power just by merely focusing on them and by you thinking that they actually hold some sort of substantial weight in your life, because they don't. All of it is on you. And like I always say, you get to choose whether that's liberating or whether that's depressing. And it could also be both, right? It can be a little depressing that I wanted that crab boil, or I really wanted to see him tonight. I really wanted to see her tonight. But instead, I'm going to let some very uncomfortable emotions bubble up in me. I may cry. I may throw a tantrum. I may need some support from a friend, a trusted family member, a confidant, but we have to let it come up. And if we're always eating, or we're always ingesting, or we're always looking to run away and escape, how is it ever going to come up? And then how are you ever going to truly be the happy woman or the happy man that you deserve to be? Joy and fulfillment is your birthright. You're not here to just suffer. And I say that all the time. So if you want to know some more coping mechanisms that have been very helpful for myself and some of my other subscribers, let me know down below, what coping mechanisms do you use now for discomfort? And how do you think you could kind of pivot away from putting responsibility on things that are fleeting, things that don't last long? What can you do more to take responsibility for yourself and your life and your feelings in that moment? All right, so I'm going to leave it here. I got to head to the gym. Finish my juice. It's very spicy today, but, it's all good. And you guys will be catching me tomorrow. See you soon.